on Channel Africa.
It is a 20 after 3 Central African time. So apparently, gifts are not the only thing that you can inherit from your family or from, your parents should they pass away. Speaking of your daily dilemma. And in this case, we need to talk about how to navigate inheritance, especially with financial education. Let's say you're inheriting something from your deceased parent or...
Which I have.
A period. But you had the financial education and that's why you're here today looking fabulous, honey.
Yes.
Joining us is Shaun Meintjes, who is the financial advisor and franchise principal at Consult by Momentum, to talk a little bit more about inheritance and unexpected inheritance. Shaun, thank you so much for joining us. Listen, I don't think this is something, that we kind of secretly want should that particular incident take place with our parents or our family members. But what happens when someone receives an unexpected inheritance? What are the first actions should we be taking?
100%. Thank you, Ntsako. Thank you for having me today. So one of the first actions that you should take at that point is to meet with a financial advisor. It's very important to have a relationship with an existing advisor at that point, because it can be a very emotional process and you don't want to make mistakes at that point. So I would always recommend to have an advisor up to that point. And there's also a responsibility on your parents to make sure that you are educated financially. You don't know which age you will be when you pass away. So it's their responsibility, to have that relationship in place. I've got a 7-year-old son, and I think it's important to just phase them into it. So it's not a big shock, the day it may happen.
So, Shaun, chat to us about the common mistakes that people make in this situation. What do we see often?
Yeah, so what we see often is children inheriting a large sum of funds and, just blowing it at the beginning. The problem with that is, they've got friends who suddenly become best friends because they know there was a little bit of an inheritance, or that uncle that you have never heard about, and suddenly he steps into the picture. Also in terms of scammers, there's a lot of people that are out to actually, target you. So some of the biggest mistakes can be, just spending recklessly, or just not having the education to use those funds appropriately. Start investing, settling debt first. If you start spending funds before debt has been settled, before the estate has been wound up, that can cause major concerns and issues for you. So, the main mistake people make is not being prepared to receive those funds, not knowing what's going on in the estate, not having certain structures like a trust, etc., in place. But it's always important to, just have the basics in place and avoid those mistakes as far as possible. We know everybody was young. We know how we thought about money at a very young age, and it's important to just be educated in that. And your parents have to take that responsibility from our perspective to, put the right steps and structures in place.
I was about to say that how can we protect their inheritance? Because I think also it would be a little bit unfair to expect, let's say, a 21-year-old who maybe just inherited 3 million rand or whatever, to kind of use it properly. You know what I mean? I mean, anyone at that age, couldn't even use a 10K properly. So how, as the person who is writing up their wills, writing up their inheritance, kind of responsible, and what can they put in the clauses to make sure that the money and the estate is handled appropriately?
100%. So firstly is to have a valid will. Please, that's step one. So have a valid will that is executable, which means, the right stuff is written into that will, something that can be executed then. And then in the will, if your children are still minors, you have to write it that they need to draw up a testamentary trust. So testamentary trust means that they will care for the minors up to a certain age that you determine, and they will pay the expenses, pay the school fees directly. Just make sure that the funds are used appropriately, and you have the testamentary trust in place up to a certain age. I always recommend an age of at least 25 years old, because if you finished with school, 18-year-old. Brand new Polo GTI would be the first best thing that a lot of 18-year-olds would want to buy.
The R line.
The R line. Exactly. And, Polo these days is not 200,000 anymore. So anyway, so I recommend having an age of at least 25. You know your child. If they are a little bit older, if they are responsible in general, and then with money. So I would have that testamentary trust in place up to at least an age of 25. So in effect, they pay for all of their expenses, make sure that everything is paid. If they want to go study, studying fees are paid directly to the institution. And at the age of 25, or whichever nominated age, then they get access to whatever lump sum is available in that. So that is one of the most important things to do. If your child firstly is a minor, it's a must. But I still recommend, even if my son was 19 or 20 years old, I would still have that trust in place just to make sure those funds that I worked very hard for, paid a premium for in terms of a life insurance policy, are used appropriately. It would be so sad to, not use it as it was intended for.
Shaun, let's chat wealth building opportunities. What is the smartest thing to do when you get a lump sum via your inheritance?
So smartest thing, firstly, is depending on your scenario. So it would be to meet with a registered financial advisor, get their advice, because I can't give you a single scenario that works for all clients. Clients' needs differ, and that's why we sit and do a financial needs analysis. But let's say that step has been taken care of. We would usually then say, okay, you've inherited this lump sum. Do you have any debt that is payable? School fees that was still outstanding, any form of debt. So first, settle debt. Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world, but only if it works for you and not against you. So I would say settle debt firstly, and from there then start having firstly an emergency fund in place of 3 to 6 months of net salary. And after that, you start with your wealth building. You have to cater for retirement, use a tax-free savings account. There's so many structures, but there's not one single winning recipe for all clients. Otherwise, it would be very easy for everybody to follow that winning recipe.
Sure.
So that's why it's important. Have a registered financial advisor. They should have your best interest at heart and just guide you in the right direction.
Would you say travel is a good way to kind of go through the process? Because also we actually forget the fact that you're also healing, you're kind of getting through life on your own. It can be so overwhelming. Would you say travel is also a good idea to kind of spend that inheritance? Because, maybe our parents didn't travel much, maybe we're also just trying to find a way to, I think we spend a lot of time saying what we shouldn't do and where we should put the money but what's left, with what's left, what do you get to do that is actually viable and makes sense for your life?
Yes, no, I think travel can be a great way to spend that money. Obviously, just be careful that you don't overspend on that trip. Don't blow the whole lump sum on a trip at a five-star resort for 4 weeks, and you actually then come back and sit with a lot of debt or made bad financial decisions. I've seen clients in the past, resigning from their jobs because they've inherited R1 million. Sounds like a lot of money. But the problem with that is you maybe earn R1 million in 3 or 4 years. So what do you do when those funds are depleted? So be smart about your money. If you are earning a salary of R100,000 a month, but you inherit 30 million, there is a place for a holiday. You can probably pay for it yourself as well. But everything, everything and anything possible, just at the right ratios. Maybe a trip to Cape Town is a better option than an international trip. So all just depends on the scenario. But I think you are right. You have to look at the emotional side of things as well. It's not a fun process, and you have to look at your own mental well-being. But don't use it as an excuse. I think it's very easy to say, "Oh no, this will be good for me," and it's just an excuse to misappropriation of the funds. So to spend too much.
Shaun Meintjes, where do we find you? Where can we get some more insights and information on everything you're chatting to us about?
Perfect. So you can find me on social media. So I've got a LinkedIn page. I also with my name and surname, and then also on Instagram and Facebook. Financial advisor Shaun Meintjes. You're welcome to reach out to me there, and we can take it further.
Thank you so much for joining us on The Upside. Shaun Meintjes, financial advisor and franchise principal at Consult by Momentum.